I am so excited for this conversation because you're truly one of the coolest, baddest in a good way, people that I know. And
You
so,
are too kind.
and so tell the people your name and what it is that you do in the world, or how we would recognize you by the labels that we typically kind of put ourselves out with.
Oh, I love labels so much. No, my name is Ichel. And really, I would probably describe myself as like a coach, a guide, and a mentor. So yes, I do coaching, but it's also with a lot of the spiritual side of energy guidance with it as well.
How did you figure out, or how did you get into that space where you were into energy, or that you recognized that you had these gifts related to being a spiritual guide?
I think I've always been that way, like from a really young age, but certain things, I guess, were people told me to suppress it because it's like, oh, we don't do that kind of thing. You don't want other people knowing you can do that. And it almost, like we don't talk about that here. So for a long time, I pushed it down because it was like, okay, it's not safe to do this. It's not safe to be seen for who I am. And it's only really recently, as in the last 10 years, and motherhood will really help you like get out of your stuff and go, I just have to be who I am. So huge shifts from having children as well, because they teach you so much stuff. But I don't know, as you get older as well, you just get to the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend to be something I'm not. And the only thing that you can do is show up in your authenticity. And again, from an energy viewpoint, people read that, because if you're being something you're not, it feels off. And people can't quite put their finger on it, but it's like there's just something not right. And it's often when people are imitating or trying to be something that they're not. And they do it even at a subconscious level because that's what they've been taught, or you need to fit in, or we don't do that, or whatever label or story that's been put on you since you grew up. So when, like for me, with the age that I'm at now, it's all about dismantling those stories, like peeling them all back. Like every single story I've been given is questioning, is that true though? And is it true for me, who I am now? And then I get to take it away. Or I can look at a story and go like, no, that fits with me, and that works for me. I'm going to keep that story. So that's the power that we have in the choice of addressing all of those labels, as you put it.
I love what you just said about like literally everything is story, right? Mm-hmm. We're constantly making up stories. And I know that you coach and you have a coaching community. What are some of the stories that you see most often? The stories that don't serve people, where people are pretending to be, or where society has told them to be one way, but that's not really who they are. Like, what are some of the most common stories that we're telling ourselves?
I love that. Yeah. Probably the two main things I see all the time are people living someone else's life. So because they think what they really want isn't possible, or that what will other people think if I actually go after that? So often it's like parents' dreams or society's expectations that they're living out, and it's got nothing to do with who they are. So they're so out of alignment. And this is when you see people like achieve massive success, raise a family, all sorts of stuff, and then they still have this empty feeling. And it's like, no, it's just something missing. And it's like, because you're not who you are. You're everything everybody else told you to be, rather than being authentically who you are. And then that links with the other thing that I see a lot of, and that's people being afraid to just shine their light, just to be who they are and to stop hiding. There's so much hiding goes on. It's like, I don't want to take up too much space. I'll just be quiet over here in the corner.
That's a big one. And related to those, obviously this platform is called Worthy, is that feeling of worthiness. Like, am I worthy to take up space? Do I belong? So how do you, so as I said, I know that you coach and you have your own communities. How do you start to help people take apart those stories? And how do you help people actually figure out? Because I think that's the other part is, at least in my story, I knew that I didn't feel good. I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what that other thing was. Mm-hmm. Like, it was buried so deep. I didn't even know how to connect with myself. So how do you help people take those steps to finding who they really are?
Yeah, because that's so true. Because often we're so disconnected that we don't even know who we are. We don't even know, like sometimes when you ask somebody a question of what is it that you actually want? And they're like, I don't even know. And it's like, what do you enjoy doing? I don't know, because I enjoy doing what my children are doing, or I enjoy doing what my partner does. It's like, do you enjoy doing that though? I don't know. And we, somewhere along the line, we get lost in pleasing everybody else, that we forget this ourselves as a person that needs to be nourished and pleased, and all that, if you go back to when you were like a little girl, all the things that you did, and somewhere along the lines you've lost it. So it's reconnecting with those parts of yourself, the things that give you joy, the things that make you happy, and that don't actually have to lead anywhere. So rather than, say, creating art because it's a side hustle and you can make money out of it, just create art because of the joy of creating art, and it makes you feel really good. And then you can just throw it in the bin afterwards, or you can put it on your wall. It doesn't have to have somewhere to lead. Often it's the actual process of doing things that creates the joy in the first place, rather than the end goal, which is what we've all been hardwired to do. You have to do this because this will lead you there, and this will lead you there. And sometimes it's like, just do something because you're in the present moment rather than where it's going to lead you to.
Something that you talked about earlier is the fact that we are all energy, right? And that everything is energetic. And you said about your ability to be able to read people's energy. Is that a skill that everybody has? Do we all have that skill? Are we all able to read energy?
Definitely on some level, because we'll all have done it at some point. Like when you meet somebody and everybody's like, oh, I can't wait for you to meet Brad. He's the best guy. Everybody loves Brad. And you meet him and you're like, I'm not sure about Brad. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but something's not, it just doesn't sit right. And everybody else will be telling you this and that. And you're, in a sense, is just like, no, there's something that isn't sitting right. So we all have it. And sometimes even going into like a different environment, if you go into a restaurant or a different building, and again, you can feel just something. And we so often brush it off because I'm just making it up. I'm being silly. All of these stories, again, that we have in our heads. But it's something that we all definitely have, and others do it more easily than others. And this is the interesting thing when I work with people. Often the things that they do, like the gifts that they have, come so easily to them that they think everybody else is doing it. And then through conversations, then they're like, oh, yes, and I do this and I do this. And I'm like, that's not normal, right? Like the average person can't do what you do. And they're like, really? I thought everybody could do that. And then that helps unlock in them who they really are, the things that come so naturally to them, but it's actually a gift that they've been overlooking it all their lives. And then when they can see it as a gift, when I can shine that light on it and say like, no, this is a gift. This is part of the uniqueness of you that makes you who you are. Then when they acknowledge that, they can really invite more of it in and explore it and have fun with it.
For many of us, we've buried that skill, that intuition, that sixth sense. Is it something that you can relearn? Like, how do you start, or even, as you said, like with energy and trusting our senses, is it something that you can learn? Is it something that you practice? Like, how does someone get better at using those skills?
Definitely, because it's really a process of trust. Because what you've done with yourself, if every time like this has come up and gone, I'm not sure, I don't know about this, and then your logical mind has kicked in and gone, no, you're being silly, we're going to do this anyway. Every time you do that, you're basically eroding trust with yourself. And if you were in a relationship with somebody else, and every time they came up with an idea or had a sense and you went, no, you're being silly, how would that relationship feel? It's not going to feel very good. There's going to be no trust there. So it's just like each day, step by step, building that trust back up in yourself. So I always tell my clients to start like really easily, like don't make it this big thing, but I'm going to use my intuition to see if I should move to another country. It's like, okay, let's just start small. It's great if you can get there, but just things as simple as like opening your closet and knowing, like when you instantly go, like, I want to wear the pink shirt today. Before your brain then jumps in and goes, oh, I don't know about pink. I don't know which shoes I would match with that. Which jewelry would I have? Just trust yourself and go, okay, I'm going to wear pink today. rather than overthinking every single decision that you make, because that intuition will guide you if you allow it to be heard rather than drowning it in overthinking and logic all the time as soon as something comes up. And then each time you do that, you're building more and more trust in yourself, so that when you get to the decisions of, should I move country? Should I move interstate? It's actually really easy to listen to that sense inside you and know it's guidance rather than your logical mind coming up with all the arguments for or against. And then you can trust because you've developed that trust from building it step by step by step.
We're taught so much to discount our intuition, to discount our sixth sense. And like you said, so much of how we go through the world, and even when you think about our school systems, it's so focused on the logical. And if it's not logical, and if 1 + 1 does not equal 2, then it's not real. And so I'd love to know for you, how do you explain to somebody who's never been into spirituality? Like, what is spirituality? Because I feel like that's a huge part of spirituality is trusting yourself, trusting your senses, listening. You said something there. You said listening to guidance. Guidance from who?
And that's like the biggest question ever, because for each person it's different. Yeah. And it's whatever you resonate with and connect with. So for some people, they would say guidance is their higher self. For some people, they'd say it's God. For others, it's the quantum field. For others, it's their ancestors. It's wherever you resonate with, where that guidance is coming from. And all this spirituality, this is just ancient wisdom. This is things that people have known and talked about for millennia. We can't even say centuries, it's millennia. And really, it all comes down to physics. So a lot of the things I'm talking about, energy and the way that energy works, is based in physics. It's not just woo-woo like stuff that's made up. It's energy, all of the things that you look at. Like my eldest son studied physics and maths at university, and we have the most amazing conversations because he's so far removed from anything you could describe as woo-woo. He is very like, this is physics, this is maths, this is how it is. So we have these conversations where I come in from this is an energy field. And he's like, yes, but that'll just be returned because that's the way the quantum field works. So we have this understanding that it's actually exactly the same thing. We just have a different way of describing it and interpreting it.
What does it mean? Like for you, what are some of the practices that you do that help you tap into your intuition or tap into your inner knowing?
I think one of the best ways is to see what is happening around you. So as in, if you aren't creating the life that you thought you wanted, is looking at where are your thoughts? What do you actually think is possible? Because your mind is such a powerful tool that even on a day where you're like, everything just feels off, and then you can go like, wait, where are my thoughts? What am I thinking about today? Okay. And then you can instantly move and change. So you can even reframe a mood. You can wake up and go, everything is wrong today. Is it though? Everything's the same as yesterday. You just had like a couple of things not go according to plan. Yeah, you're right. And then you can instantly just shift. And as soon as you shift, you're then changing your own frequency, which then changes what you emit to the universe, which then changes what is brought back to you. So anytime you're not creating what you want in life, it's like, look at what you're thinking and feeling and see what that's putting out into the universe and pulling back into you.
So literally, our thoughts create our life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is based in physics. That's not, like our thoughts bend our physical reality. There's so much data and evidence on this, like different experiments that have been done. But like what you think literally changes the world around you.
When you think about how deep and how powerful that is, because I think so much of what we're taught is circumstantial power, right? Mm-hmm. That circumstances say, the markets are up, the markets are down, the whatever, I have a job, I don't have a job, that dictates, I'm happy or I'm sad. Mm-hmm. And yet what you're telling us is that I can in an instant decide what I want to think and create from that place.
Like the circumstances that different people will have different circumstances, and things will be more challenging for others because the path isn't as easy, if you want to say like that. But you can always change it, because there's countless examples where you can see that with people where everybody had the same circumstances and one person became very successful or very happy or very peaceful. And the difference is them and their frequency and what they're thinking and their resilience and tenacity and what they believed was possible, rather than just looking at the circumstances.
Now, something that I know you talk a lot about, and I love your social media posts on this, is the moon and the moon's influence on our lives. Now, I grew up just knowing that the moon was there, the sun was there, and that was as much as I knew. So how does the moon impact our lives?
Because we're just beings on the earth, the same way as the trees or the ocean, or we're energetic beings the same way. And the moon has such power that it can pull the tides in and out. And when you consider we're made of 70% water and we think it's not going to affect us, it's like, that is how powerful the moon is. And it's when you start to tune into it, you begin to realize that different phases of the moon affect you differently. Even the planetary alignments that align with the moon will affect you differently. So when you start to pay attention, you can see like, oh, I feel amazing every full moon. I have loads of energy. I don't sleep because I have so much energy. And then you can start to put that into your schedule. So you can go, okay, I can use this as a time to be creative, and I can start a new project and get things done. And then if your energy with the new moon feels like really like, I just want to hide under the blankets and not speak to anybody, it's like, okay, don't launch don't do any guest speaker gigs during that time. So you can start to fit your life around how you feel. But so often we're like, oh, I just feel off today, and it's so often aligned with a cycle of the moon or something else that's happening, like a solstice or an equinox. There are forces around us all the time that are interplaying with our energies.
It's so funny you say that. I was at the doctor recently, and I was talking to the nurse at my doctor's office, and she used to work in a hospital for many, many years. She's kind of semi-retired, and she's not someone who I would consider to be like, oh, spiritual and all of this kind of stuff. But she was just talking about how when she worked in the hospital, she was like, we always knew when it was a full moon. She was like, it was crazy in the hospital, and like all these people would be coming into emergency, and she's like, we knew, like it was like literally we knew it was a full moon. And so how do we tap into that power? How can we leverage it? What are some practices that we can do? Like, are there full moon practices, new moon practices? Like, what are the things that we can do to tap into that power?
Yeah, it's funny you say that as well, because I had a friend who worked in the police force, and they would put like every year, like who was going to have to work bank holidays and holiday days and things. And if it was the end of a month, and it was like a bank holiday, so everybody was getting paid the end of the month, and it was a full moon, they were like, I'm not working that shift, not me. No, somebody else can, because it was the same thing. They knew it would just be absolute chaos, so nobody wanted to work the shift. And this is a very logical type of career, and they still know, it's not esoteric at all, like being in the police force, but they knew as well the effect that full moons have. Even like maternity wards, way more babies born on a full moon. So They know it's going to be really busy. Yeah. I mean, my second son, I think it was the day after the full moon when he was born. And I joked that I was put in a broom cupboard because there was no space at all in this midwifery unit. It was just like this tiny room. That was the only space left. And it was because it was so busy because it was a full moon.
Oh, wow. And so how can we, like, what are some practices that you do? I know you teach in your community around how to use the moon cycles. So can you share with us some practices that we could be using for the different cycles of the moon?
Definitely. Like the best ones to start with is to know that full moons, because it's the completion of a cycle, are really good for releasing. So letting go of things. So this can be anything from, do you need to purge your closet, right through to what habits are not serving you anymore? What things are you doing every day in life that are not getting you to where you need to go? And then it can be really beneficial to write that on a piece of paper, like write down the things that you're letting go of, and actually, obviously in a safe place, set fire to the paper, because then you're bringing in different ceremonies of elements. You're allowing the purging, cleansing effect of fire to assist you in removing that from your life. So full moons are fantastic for that, like releasing, letting go, ending of cycles, completion of things. And then obviously the new moon is the opposite. And
can we just, sorry to interrupt you, Ichel, but just, can we just pause there with the fire? Okay, so what is the significance of, so on a full moon, letting go, I write things down. What's the significance, first of all, of writing things down? Why would I write it down?
There's amazing power in the written words compared to, say, typing something out. There's also a very strong power in the spoken word as well, because you can literally create with your words. So it's the same power. It's you putting your force and your energy into those words. And the same way as like when we journal, we know the connection, the feeling that gives when you actually pour it out onto paper. And it's working with the different elements. So when you're working with paper, now you're working with the earth element. You're bringing in the fire element to assist with the burning of it. So all the rituals that I create, because I do a different ritual for each different moon, is always tied to something. So say it's a full moon in Pisces, which is water, then I'll do a ritual centered around water for a full moon. So it'll be something like taking a bath and all of the things that you want to let go of, like feeling them come out of you and go into the water and then watching it drain away down the plug hole, anything like that. So I'm always tying it to elements and the elements of each different moon. So I don't do the same rituals on every single moon. I'm always changing them up.
And so we want to be tapping into the elements. So for anyone who doesn't know the elements, could you give us a breakdown of what the elements are? What do you mean when you say elements?
So all the natural elements that we have around us, so fire, water, earth, air, you can say ether as well. So like wind. So some of the rituals that I do, say you burn the paper, but then you actually take it out into the garden and dig a hole and put the ash into the hole, because then you're returning it to the earth. So then you're asking the earth for assistance as well. So the more things you can call in to assist you, the stronger it's going to be, because so often our story is like, I have to do it all by myself. It's fine. I'll just do it all on my own. I mean, this was my story like forever. So even being able to call in assistance from the elements, from guidance, from beings, from the universe, is building that power with you. And it's also declaring to the universe, to the world, I don't have to do it all on my own. I can call in assistance and get help to do these things.
So the full moon is a great time for letting go of things, for kind of cleansing, letting go, reflection. What about the new moon? What do we do for the new moon?
New moon is, because it's the beginning of a cycle, it's excellent for starting projects, starting something new. So if you're going to launch something, like new moons are fantastic times to do that, for getting clarity on where you want to go or what you want to do, like journaling on that, thinking about that, and just new beginnings. So if you think of full moons as a release, a completion of a cycle, whereas a new moon is a new beginning, starting again.
I hear so much like about, like Mercury in retrograde, and I've like no idea what it means, but I do know that things do go kind of crazy sometimes. What is that? What does that mean? And what are the things that we should be doing? Is there anything we should be doing in that time?
Yeah, well, some of the things like I don't put that much credence on, because it's a bit like the more power you give something, the more powerful it becomes. So I think if we're all walking around like, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, it's like inviting that energy in. But saying that, when Mercury's in retrograde, I will still triple check travel plans, triple check tech things, because Mercury has a trickster energy about it. It's like coyote energy. So it's playful, and it'll just kind of mix up your tech things. So, like you think something's being recorded and it's not, or you go out to log into a Zoom call, you've logged into 1,000 times and it's disappeared. And you're like, Mercury, you little trickster planet. But saying that, you can travel when Mercury's not in retrograde and miss your flight or miss your train. So, I don't put too much heaviness on these things. I just have an awareness of it rather than like building my whole life around it. So there's some people that will say, I'm not going to launch because it's Mercury retrograde. Like I don't take it that far. I'm just going to go, I can still launch, but I'm going to triple check all my tech things are in place.
And what about, because it just passed, but things like Lionsgate, like, are there times that are more potent, for lack of a better way to put it, in terms of us setting our intentions or manifestation and things like that? And actually, before even you answer that, when people talk about manifestation, what does that even mean?
Yeah, because manifestation is basically just creating what it is that you want. It's like you have a thought, you think about what it is that you want, you co-create with the universe as in you take action on it, and then you hold that belief that it's already done. And then you keep holding that belief until it appears in your physical reality. And that's as easy as it gets, really.
But it sounds much fancier. Like, oh my gosh, like, should I like set my intentions like under a pillow and then rub a crystal? And if I didn't rub the crystal 4 times instead of 6 times, like, all of this stuff. Like, so it literally is think a thought, take action, and hold firm to whatever it is, the intention that you have.
Doesn't matter how many crystals you've got. If you're not taking action towards what you want in life, it's not going to appear. Because I can sit here now and go, red Ferrari, red Ferrari. It's not going to appear in my driveway unless I actually, go out and find a car dealer that sells red Ferraris. Or you've got to take aligned action. You have to do your part in co-creating. You have to actually move towards it.
But are there better times or more potent times for setting your intentions? I know we talked about the new moon being a great time for that, but in terms of I heard so much, oh my gosh, Lionsgate portal, and are there times that are more like powerful?
Well, yeah, there are times in the year, again, where the universe can kind of give you a leg up. It can help you along. It's like, let me take some of the work for you. So even as we're speaking, we are in the autumn equinox now. So that's a really potent time because it's a shifting of seasons. It's a moving from one space into the other. And it's a time of balance. It's a time of reflection. It's a time of slowing down because of the shifting in seasons. So I often take a lot of my cues from nature. It's like, what does nature do? Like even the things that people are concerned about, like, I'm not sure, I don't want to let this go. It feels uncomfortable. And you go, what does nature do every fall? It lets go of its leaves. And it doesn't go, what if my leaves never grow back? It just lets them go and knows and trusts that everything's going to be okay. So nature teaches us so many lessons if we slow down enough to look at what is happening. So things like equinoxes, solstices, when you start to tune in more, the way that I would say is tune in, it's just like increasing your awareness. You can feel the difference in different times of year. You can feel the shifting in the seasons. And of course, when we were more in touch with nature, as in we were living outside, we knew that, but we've come so separated because of how we're living and our man-made cities and our man-made homes and all of this. We've become so disconnected from the way that we used to communicate with nature.
Now, you did mention at the top about crystals and you having crystals in your office. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about crystals. What are they? Because I hear so much about crystals nowadays. What are they? Why do we need them? How do they work?
I'm smiling because this is a conversation I had with my physics son when he's like, there's nothing to them, right? And I was like, no, there is. He's going, they're just rocks.
It's a piece of rock.
Like, well, they're very pretty rocks. I want them around me, okay? But there is actually like the structure on a cellular level is different to a rock. So therefore, the vibrational field is different. And it's so much about the intention you put on something. So one of the things that we can do, like if you're working towards something, say you are working towards having the feeling of, I am confident. If you get like a palm-sized crystal to assist you with this and you choose something and every time you hold it in your pocket, you say, I am confident. I am confident. You're infusing that intention into that crystal, whether there is a different healing property or there is a different energy emitting from the crystal. what you're doing is changing the frequency by speaking that into it. And then you have an actual physical tie that every time you hold that crystal, you're reminded, I am confident. So whether we believe it's creating a different energy field or not, it's so much about the intention that we hold and what we think, because it's our thoughts that create the feelings, that create the vibration, that create the frequency. And whether you're from a point of view that you actually think each one has different metaphysical properties, or you're thinking they're just pretty rocks. They are very beautiful things to have around, the same way that plants are. To me, it's that same natural things have a different frequency to like chemical things or plastic things. So that's why I choose to have them around me, because they feel good.
Something that I did, speaking of plants, I'll grab it and show it to you, is I got...
Oh, wow.
I got this plant inspired by you, which was a money tree. That's what this plant is called. And tell me about this plant and why people get them and what it means.
Well, for me, something like that, like when you get a money tree, you can tie that to how you treat money. So you can tie that to your relationship with money. I mean, like we have 2 of those in our kitchen, and they have become enormous, like so big, they're bending under the ceiling. Like I'm going to have to find somewhere else to put them. And my husband always jokes like, whoa, look at the money coming your way, and it gets new shoots and things. But really, it's more about, I connect that to how I take care for that plant, for that money tree is connected to how I take care, the reverence I have for my money. So if I'm neglectful of the plant and the leaves go yellow and they fall off, or I'm not paying attention to what it's doing, they do cycle 3 times of that as well. One of mine both of them last year started going yellow, and I was like, what is wrong with that? And they just needed repotting. Gave them more space, again, a metaphor for us in life, gave them more space, and they absolutely bloomed. But it was only because I was paying attention to what was happening with it. And so we can tie that, the same story, to how are we treating our money? Am I paying attention to it? Do I have reverence for it? Am I in relationship with it?
And that was exactly that when you told me about the money tree, and my tree has grown. It was a little itty bitty thing. And I'm like, oh wow,
they're just such gorgeous plants as well.
And they're so easy to look after. But that was for me, and this is my physical reminder, and it sits like right there, and every day I see it, my physical reminder to care for my money. And the fact, like you said, that, oftentimes we want money. We're like, give me abundance, but we're not taking care of the money. And so this is my physical reminder. And I'd love to know, for anybody who is looking for, a lot of people are looking for, how can I create more abundance in my life in terms of money? Because abundance is many things. What are some practices that you have in your world related to money and creating money and caring for money?
There's 2 things that I've seen over and over again, both with myself and with clients. And there's 2 really important things. And the first thing is what we've spoken about a lot, is energy and frequency. So if we are working from a place of, I don't have enough money, I never have enough money, I don't have money, my bank account is so low, what we are then speaking out into existence, into the universe, will be returned to us. That is the frequency that will be returned. So when you're working from a place of, I don't have enough money, what's going to be returned to you is, I don't have enough money. So it's like this hamster wheel that never stops. So when you're in that place and you don't have the money in your physical reality, you move your frequency to, what do you actually have? What can you be grateful for? It's like, I have a roof over my head. I'm so grateful for this clean water I have to drink. I'm so grateful for my family and the health that they have. And you move your attention to that, because whatever you put your attention on will amplify and grow. So even though you're not placing the attention on money as such in your bank account, you're placing your attention onto the gratitude of the abundance that you already have. Because the universe doesn't care if you're speaking in Spanish or French, the universe is just speaking the language of frequency. So money is just energy, the same way as anything else. It's us that puts the resistance up to the meaning of what does $1 million mean versus $100. It's all just energy and frequency. The universe is like, you can have whatever you want. It's just your own resistance that you put up because of the meaning that you create around what these different numbers mean.
And so literally creating a better relationship in terms of attracting money, but abundance in general is gratitude. So that's the one thing that I've heard. And then our frequency in terms of what are we focusing on? Are you focusing on the lack, or are you focusing on what it is that you already have and being grateful for what you have?
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And the other thing, the second thing, is to get into alignment. Because often it's because we're not aligned with who we really are. So there's that off energy that I spoke about earlier. And when you get into alignment with not living a life that somebody else wants you to do, or doing what was expected of you, or having the career that your parents always wanted you to have, actually doing what resonates with you and what makes you feel happy and what allows you to go out into the world and serve with an open heart. I have seen countless times when that happens and people stop actually focusing on the money has to follow in anyway.
There's this wonderful story. I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, that you share in your coaching community about tassels. Can you tell us that story, please? Because I love that story and the significance of it, and especially with what we're talking about being in alignment, right? Mm-hmm. And what that means to be in alignment. So can you tell us the tassel story?
Yes, my infamous tassel story. And it's basically all about gratitude. And that so often we have so much, but we're focusing on what we don't have. So we could have 95% of everything that we want, and then we look at the 5% and go, but I don't have this. And that's what's going to be returned to you. So you get more and more of that 5% until soon enough, it's going to be the 100%. So not being in alignment with things as well, like my business, the family business, so from when I was 17 years old that I worked in, was selling tassels. And if you don't know the world of tassels, it's little tassels and pom-poms and ruches, the frilly bits that you get on cushions and curtains. It's a very niche kind of business. But this is what we did. And my sister, we lived together when she just qualified as a physiotherapist. And she would come home from work and talk about people that she'd helped like walk again. They came in doubled up in pain, and they left her physiotherapy office like walking. Women that had stress incontinence that she would help, and they'd be sobbing in gratitude about the difference that she'd made in their lives. And I'd be like, I sold 5 tassels today. And there was just such a disconnect. I was looking at what she was doing in the world. And I was like, oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to make a difference in people's lives rather than just selling this product that does nothing, that doesn't change the frequency of the planet. Like, it does nothing. It's so pointless. And that was what I focused on. And I focused on all of that rather than all the things that it did give. And it was through, I won't go into the full background story of it because we'll be here for like 3 hours. But basically, when I had my eyes opened to actually everything that gave me, everything that it provided for me, like it provided a roof over my head. The income that was generated from selling those tassels was feeding my family. It helped my children go to university. It paid for me to go to America and be part of a mastermind and meet the most incredible people. And it was all down to tassels. And I kept digging, and I kept digging further about all the things that this business had created in my life and in other people's lives, the expansion that it created, where it was used in people's homes and their environments were better. We sell a lot of it into the movie industry and like what that shifts in people's lives, like the expansion it creates for them. And then you start thinking about all the jobs it creates, not only for my own team and the staff, but the people that are driving and delivering the boxes, the people that work in the movie industry. And then you're just like, whoa, like this industry, this one business that I'm doing is making such an impact on the planet. But my ego was like, I want to make a difference. I want to help people. So I couldn't see the wood for the trees because I was so focused on what I didn't have that even though I already had everything, I couldn't even see it.
That's why I love this story. That's why, like, every time I've heard you tell it so many times, but every time I'm just so reminded about, as you said, how we spend so much time focusing on the lack, first of all. And then second of all, I think, oftentimes we think if I'm not on a global stage and, solving world hunger, then I'm not making a difference in the world. And yet, we all are. And whatever it is that you do right now makes a difference, whether it's you pick up the garbage at the local park and so the kids can come and have a great time because the garbage has been picked up, or whatever you do right now has an impact. And I think it's really seeing that. But it's also, as you said, Ichel, recognizing that we need to step into alignment, that it is about, okay, is the life that you're living the dream that you have for yourself? And how do you, and there's nothing to say, tassels, that you can't be selling tassels in the meantime while, because for you, I'm going to guess it's what gave you the ability to start your other business. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the other business that you have.
Yeah, it is. And it's such a good point, because this is what the gratitude is all about. Because often people will get to the point where they know they're out of alignment and they're like, I don't like this job. I don't like this corporate career I have anymore. I want to start a new business. But there's so much in hate and in loathing of what they're doing currently that they're actually blocking receiving more, which would enable them to start something new. So when we work from a place of, like, this isn't what I want to do forever, but I'm so grateful for everything that it's giving me now. Because like you said, I couldn't have had the tools I needed to start a new business that is absolutely flourishing if I didn't first have the tassels. So it's having that gratitude that it's a stepping stone. It doesn't mean it's going to be what you're doing forever, but just looking at all the things it's giving you. And this is why we say, like, everybody has this tassel story, and it might not be, it might not be your business. It could be your relationship. It could be your relationship with money. It could be like a family story. But there's something at the root, I believe, with everybody, where there's something that is so abundant in your life and you don't even recognize it. So you're focusing on all the things you don't have rather than everything you already do. And when you do that, this is what opens the gates of abundance and allows you to step into doing what you really want to do. But you have to have gratitude for where you are now, because what you're doing is basically projecting into the future or going back into the past. So you lose all the power that we hold in this present moment, and you're creating life from two time zones that don't even exist.
A huge thing that stops so many people, I know it was something that stopped me for so long, stepping into what my dream was fear. Fear of failing, fear of being disappointed, fear of disappointing. How do you give tools, or what are the tools, some of the tools you give to your community to help them step past the fear?
Really, it's looking at, like, what's the bigger fear? Like staying where you are for the next 20 years. It's like, isn't that more scary than actually taking a chance and seeing what happens anyway? Because you already know where you are, you don't like, you already know it's not working. So to me, that's a way more scary concept, like the idea of doing that for the rest of your life. Like, this is it. This is as good as it gets. This is your lot. This is all you get to do. That is way more scary than actually going, I'm just going to take a chance and see where it goes. Because we have so much fear attached to change, but change is always happening. Like, everything changes all the time. And yet we get into this place where it's like, I don't know, I don't think I want to change things. It's like, well, it's going to change anyway, whether you choose it or not. So when we can stand in our power and go, I'm going to choose the change, rather than have somebody else put change on me, or rather than have circumstances dictate the change that I'm going to go through, you can actually be in your power and say, I'm going to step forward and choose the change that I want in my life. Because everything is constantly in a state of flux. It's always changing. So when you can accept that, it removes a lot of the fear of, if I do this, things are going to change. It's like, they're going to change anyway. So you might as well change it in a way that you want it to take form.
It's what you said earlier, when you're talking about nature and how we should take our cues from nature. And if you look at the nature cycle of change, right? Every year, wherever you live, there will be some version of a summer and a winter and a spring and it is the cycle of nature. And I feel like we're so resistant. I just want things to stay the same. And yet all around us. And to what you said as well, so beautifully, is the fact that if nature can trust, right? The trees, like this tree, it trusts that this leaf is dying and is going to fall off, but a new one is going to sprout. It doesn't doubt. So I love what you just said there. Ichel, I could talk to you forever. I wish you knew how much this conversation has filled my heart. I'm so grateful.
Just sit here all day.
I know. I've threatened you because Ichel lives in the most beautiful, her home is so beautiful and she has the most beautiful views with cows. She'll post pictures with cows outside. And I'm I'm going to come visit you. So one of these days I'm going to hop in a skip
here on the doorstep.
I'm literally I'll just be like, hello.
I tell me so much. You have no idea.
I was just show up with my bags in tow. Hi, I'm here. I'll sleep in your office if you like. Ichel, can you really quickly tell us about your program that you have, your beautiful community that you've built?
I have a moon circle for women, and the idea behind it is connected with ancient traditions. And this was something that we used to do as women, many, many hundreds of years ago. And it was a tradition for women to come together and meet on the full moons and just share stories and just share energy and get together. So I do that in my community, but because it's 2022, we do it on Zoom. So we don't have to actually meet in person. And it's amazing because it enables us. I think there's something like 12 different countries around the world. And we all just come together and I share a message connected with that moon. So every moon has a different message. So I'll bring through that message of the moon. So it's guidance, and there's always stories in there. And everybody always thinks I'm talking directly to them. It's I am. And then there's always space for, if you think of how the traditional moon circle would work, everybody has space to share and talk and connect. And it's this connection of community, which is so, so important. So important, especially if you're someone that's stepping into alignment and there might not be anybody in your real, physical world that understands or knows what you're doing. That's why this kind of community is so important, because it's so supportive and allows you to be whoever you are with no judgment. Nobody is going to go oh, I don't think you should be changing careers. I don't think you should be doing that. It's complete acceptance and support.
I love that, because I feel like that's what so many of us are craving, because as you said, so many people are keeping who they really are under wraps because everybody else will think I'm crazy. So to have a space like yours where I can come in and let my full freak flag fly if that's what you want.
And that's what's happened for a lot of women is they do that. They use the moon circle as their safe space. And they allow themselves to grow into who they really are. And then they go out and they change careers, or they move, and then they allow they grow the confidence inside that community first and know it's okay. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to shine. It's okay to be authentic. It's okay to do what you want. And then when they learn that, then they go out into the big wide world and they spread the ripple effect out there.
Ichel, what's your greatest dream for yourself?
What a question. Greatest dream for myself would be to continue doing what I'm doing and amplify it, so that because of the things that I have learned and the things that I've had to walk through, is to be able to show other people that it's possible for them. And I get so much back from that, to be in service for me, from selling tassels and feeling like I was making no difference in the world. It is such an honor to be in a business, in an industry, if you like. It's not really an industry, but like in a place where everything is heart-centered and everything is service. And it's all about allowing others to remember who they are, to remember how powerful they are just by being here. You know, like when people say, oh, I don't know if I'm making a difference. I think I need to, you know, like you were saying, I need to speak on a stage and speak to 1,000 people. And it's like the fact that you're here on the planet is making a difference. Like, even if you do nothing else, your vibrational field just from you being here right now is making a difference. So being in a place where I can assist people in seeing that in themselves is so rewarding. So doing that and keep amplifying it and getting that message to more and more people, just knowing the difference that would make on this planet, it's everything.
Where can people find more information about you, about, you know, the programs that you have, the community that you have, and also every month I know you share on Instagram beautiful posts about the moon cycle. So where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the best place. So I'm there, Ichel Francis, and also my website is the same thing, ichelfrancis.com.
Ichel, I'd love for you to finish this sentence for me, because I know you spoke about the power of our words.
Like, she's going to put me on the spot again. Like,
are you ready? All right. I'd love you to finish this sentence. I am
powerful.
You are, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for gifting me this time with you. I so appreciate it. Thank you for gifting us with this knowledge. I now have a whole new appreciation about moon cycles and crystals and all the beautiful things. I am so grateful for you, Ichel, and I am so grateful for the work that you do in the world, inspiring us all to step into more of who we're meant to be.
Thank you. Thank you. And the feeling is so mutual. I'm so grateful you invited me on to talk with you today and that you shared your money tree with me.
Ichel, I want to honor your time and say thank you. It's truly been such a gift to me to spend this time with you. I love you so much and I'm so grateful for you.
I love you too.
Ichel.
Thank you so much.